This is Ghost, who was adopted through Wags and Walks, and who was a great little dog, but she has some separation anxiety. Now, separation anxiety is essentially a panic attack, and the dog goes into because it's not prepared to be alone. In this video, I'm going to teach you I'm going to show you how you can teach your dog to stay. Now, stay is not relative to separation anxiety, except for it does give us afford us the ability to practice helping the dog be alone. Yes, that's not going to get it, but passive training for that, when she does that pet her and say grovel or whatever it is. So most people, when they teach their dog to stay, make it as hard as they possibly can, unintentionally. Stay, and then they take a step away, and then they say come. Well, that teaches the dog what we call an auto release, and you're trying to do distance and duration at the same time. So I teach for the 3 Ds. First for duration, up to 5 minutes with the dog right here. Then, only then do I start incorporating distance. Then I incorporate distractions, maybe a dog on TV or the baby crying or whatever it is. Ghost. So what I do is I'm first going to bring her over here, and I'm just going to use the word stay. Sit. All right. So I have the treats in my hand here. I'm going to put my hand behind my back. I'm going to say stay. I'm going to count to 3. And that was too much for her. So stay. 1, 2. Stay. Get another one ready to go. Sit. Sit. Stay. 4. Stay. Then I'm going to go to 6. I'm going to try to stay. Stay. So you're going to, and then at the end, what you want to do is before the dog gets up, you want to give it a release word. Parole is one of the words I like to use. Use fun command words. You can change this: freedom, break, release. Just never use the word okay. I know 4 dogs actually got killed because okay was their release word. They were standing on Lincoln, and one person said to the other one, okay, and the dog was on a leash, and the dog just jumped and got clipped by a car. 4 different dogs. So okay is a top 50 word. So release, break, freedom, parole, whatever you want to use. So the idea is, you saw, I tried to go to 3 seconds. At 2 seconds, she started getting up and moving away. That tells us we need to back up 1 step and practice the previous step. Now, generally speaking, when you train dogs, you don't want to ever train longer than 3 minutes. I usually tell people 90 seconds is really ideal. 90 seconds to 2 minutes. So the idea is this is one that you're going to do in a whole bunch of little practices. Now, for separation anxiety, it's basically a panic attack when the dog doesn't have practice being alone. I'm with my humans. I'm touching my humans at all times. I want them petting me. I don't have any practice of that independent. So what we do is we put the dog in a stay. Once we get to the point where we can do stay for duration, then we start incorporating distance. Maybe we have the dog stay in the corner there and back up. Now, when I do stay, what I do is I sit. I can't do it because I'm on my knees, but I would say stay, and I would back up 2 steps, and I would count to 4. Now, that's where I start, but every dog is unique. But I usually double the length of steps I backed up, and then I come back, give the dog a retreat, and say stay. Then stay. Make sure when you do the stay, I punctuate it by doing half distance between me and the dog with my hand. Stop sign, stay is universal sign for stay. I usually have the treats behind my back, because a lot of times you saw she was going forward. So I say stay, and then I put my hand on my chest, and I count whatever the duration is. Make sure you count your brain each time, because you'll not know what number you were at. And once the dog fails, if you don't have the next one be successful, it'll be harder and harder. She's already going to the dog bed, which we showed her how to do off that. And that's the next thing you would want to do when the dog, this is totally out of context, but when the dog goes to the dog bed on its own, throw a treat after she goes in. First, we leave the treats there to entice her to go, then we reward her to go. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program, which is teaching your dog to stay and separation anxiety tips. So basically what we want the dog to do is practice staying when we have distance, there, over here, out on the balcony, in the bedrooms. And eventually we want to start doing it in different areas. Now, it doesn't matter if the dog looks away at me when I'm doing the stay. All I care about is them staying in the area, because eventually we are going to step out of sight. Now, I pantomime a little bit. You won't see Ghost in this one. But let's say I'm doing distance, and the dog is right here, and I say stay, and I take 3 steps back, come back, or count to 6, and come back and give the dog the treat. When I get to the point where I'm at least 10 feet away, let's say there's a wall right here. So if I step here, you won't be able to see me. So I step back, and I'm at the doorway, and I step away, so I'm blocked for 1 second, then I come back and give the dog the treat. So now we're incorporating distance and duration simultaneously, but we already achieved duration. So that first, I step out of sight for 1 second, next time for 2 seconds, 4 seconds. I usually try doubling it, but again, go based on whatever the dog is doing. I have a security camera, so when I started doing this out of sight, I was actually I could watch the dog through my phone. And the dog started getting up, then okay, whatever number I was at, I back up and practice that before. The idea is to get the dog where you can be out of sight for longer than 5 minutes, and the dog stays in position. So the next step, what we want to do is then we want to start, and then you can do distractions. Playing a dog barking on TV, having the doors open when people are moving around and stuff outside. She likes to bark at people outside. I think it's related to her thinking she's in charge of security due to lack of rules that we talked about off camera. Okay, so once we get to the point where the dog will stay for duration, then you want to put her in a bedroom with the door open, put her in a stay, and come out here and watch TV. Now, at first, that's going to be too much. So at first, stay, and go over there and get a drink of water, come back, release. Stay, go to the bathroom, come back and release. Stay, go change clothes, and gradually, very progressively, I can use that in the States. In the States I work in, that gets a dirty word. But basically, progressively get the dog to stay for longer and longer periods of time. So now I'm practicing being independent of the humans that I live with, and I don't feel the end of the world is happening. Now, there are also a lot of little things that are contributing to separation anxiety. I talked about several of them off camera. One of the most common ones is petting the dog when it's nervous or anxious. It is the most common mistake people make with dogs. So that's why I went over petting with the purpose and passive training. Please do that as much as you can. But the other thing is, for a lot of dogs, there are triggers that let the dog know we're about to leave. One of the most common ones are these. So we pick up the keys. That's associated with us leaving the door. This is Pavlovian, this is classical conditioning. So every time the keys come out, but it's not just the keys. The dogs recognize what we're doing. I can't pet this because this is not what I want, but if you sit, I will give you it. Oh, look at that. I started going for the treat too early, didn't I? So I'm just gonna wait. I'm not telling her what to do, but as soon as she does, I'm gonna pop that treat in her mouth so fast, she's gonna be spooked how quickly it comes towards her. But I'm not telling her what to do, I'm just waiting for her. This is the beauty of this sort of dog psychology, is we help the dog figure out on their own what gets them the reward. Most of us micromanage our dog the whole time. And then when we're not there, the dog doesn't know what to do. All right, we're gonna wait and I'll get there, but I'm gonna talk about other stuff while I multitask. So what we wanna do is identify all the individual triggers the dog responds to, practice those triggers independent of leaving. Usually putting shoes on in a specific place, wearing a specific work uniform, like it could be a suit, a doctor, a uniform of any sort. The dog recognized, I had one dog that when the guy was wearing a police uniform, the dog freaked out. And so we had him practice putting his police uniform and then watching NFL. And so now, normally you leave, but you're not leaving for that. So we want to, but we're going to do this separately. So if the keys are one of them, what I would do is go over where the keys are at. Let's say the keys are kept right here by the door. I'd go over here, make it as noisy as possible, but then put them back down right away. And then keep on doing that until picking up the keys, the dog just like looks, doesn't even, it picks his head up and gets up and it's animated, thinks you're going to leave. A lot of times the dog will hang out at the door because it wants to be there to make sure that you don't leave in front of it. She might photobomb here in a second. But the idea is to systematically deprogram over all these individual triggers so that she no longer, I'm going to help you out a little bit. Sit. That's easy. But what we're going to do is help the dog practice all these individual, getting over these individual triggers and breaking the connection between the two of them. Now, again, if the dog is whimpering or whining, okay, grovel. Remember, always say the treat name after, or the command word after the treat goes in the dog's mouth. Sit. Now, I didn't ask for a sit. Even though I have a handful of treats, I don't have to give the dog a treat every single time. Affection is actually better. When they're at first learning, we want to give them treats every time, but eventually when it gets to the point where we're just giving them a reward. And this is actually how I put a dog in a sit. It looks like I have some in my hand, even though I don't. I go in an arc over the dog's head. And when I sit, then I reach under and I let him lick the treat off my hand and I tickle underneath their chin. That way you have a hand signal they can use like this. Sit. Now we're not always going to give a treat, but this way they always get that tickle, so at least they get some reward. Let me see, what else? The other things for separation anxiety. Upping the exercise also helps, especially before you're going to leave. And then when you do get to the point where you've gotten to the point where you can have the dog sit and go in the other room and or put her in the bedroom or out here and go take a bath or watch a TV show while she stays in the sit. I don't want to put a dog in a sit when I leave. because that's not reasonable to expect a dog to just stay in one position. We just don't want her to. The whole point of this is for about a month, we're practicing elongating her being apart from us with us in the easiest capacity possible while we're still in the apartment. Next stage would be to get up and actually leave the house and turn around and come right back. And then leave it and wait for 2 seconds and 3 seconds. What typically happens, we do this, we're like, okay, well, she's been pretty good. Let's go. We'll just grab a real quick dinner. Now you're across town. It's LA. We don't know what traffic's going to be like. And what the idea is, if she starts panicking, it's going to take you a long time to get there. Well, what you want, and I know it's not very convenient, but if you practice, put a table or a chair right outside this door, grab your iPad and you use your Wi-Fi and watch your TV program, get your cocktail, sit right outside. I have people who do this and they practice basically being right outside, watching the dog on a security camera and seeing how the dog does. Usually for the first minute or so, they're pacing around a little bit. If the dog sits and lies down, that's a good, really good sign. If it chews something, also a very good sign. Most dogs with real separation anxiety, you leave a steak on the floor, they won't touch it because they're so worked up. And so if you can get your dog to eat and do these things independent of that, that is a great way to do it. So teaching your dog to stay and desensitizing them from these triggers, as well as simultaneously building the dog's self-esteem by making it earn affection. And one last little tip, teaching dogs new tricks is a great way to boost their self-esteem. What I'd like to see is if the guardians can basically take turns. There's 2 primary guardians in the house, a possible third. And where the 3 adults would basically each week, maybe you teach her how to roll over. Next week, our astronaut friend, the other guardian, would teach the dog to roll over. Roll over and play dead should be one after the other because they use the same technique. The other one maybe teaches the dog to get a beer out of the fridge. That might be a little bit much for her. But teaching her to fetch or roll over, play dead, or whatever these things are, now we have multiple ways of distracting the dog and away from focusing on one thing. And dogs only focus on one thing at a time. And so we have not only different ways of distracting the dog from whatever they're focused on, but we also have a better relationship with the dog. The dog's only been here not even a month yet, right? Around a month?
No, she's been here for a while, actually, for a couple of years, yeah.
But basically, the more that we do this, the more, if we have a mentor, our mentor makes us feel better about ourselves because they help us on our life journey to accomplishing something for ourselves. The mentor doesn't do it, it guides us. And we have a lot of respect for our mentors. Same sort of thing here. Like I said, a lot of people off camera, a lot of people, they pick up the dog that's had a bad situation, they just love it, and then they nurture those unbalanced behaviors. All right, Ghost, come here. Let's see, everybody see you. Come here. See, I'm even saying the wrong version of the word, so she won't come, so I'm just going to toss it there. Come. Sit. This. Let's do it that way. There you go. All right, well, this is Ghost. And sit. Sit. Always try to keep the treat within an inch of the dog's nose. Sit. You're just trying to lengthen this video, aren't you? This is Ghost. Sit. And these are some tips and tricks you can use on how to teach your dog to stay to help them get over the case of separation anxiety.